You know that kind of silence that doesn't scream, but whispers? That's what started filling the spaces between me and Ethan. He'd pick up his phone, smirk at something, and then walk out of the room like I didn't exist. His late nights became routine. His stories, sloppy. And I didn't even need to scroll far to find hotel receipts buried in our shared email or flirty texts that weren't meant for me. But what surprised me most was how little it hurt. I wasn't heartbroken. I was relieved. It felt like someone had finally given me permission to exhale. The thing is, I'd been emotionally gone for a while. Ethan and I hadn't been a real us in years. So when I realized that the woman he was sneaking around with was Lily, my younger sister, I didn't fall apart. I didn't scream or sob. I just sat there, wine in hand, thinking, perfect. Because now, I didn't have to be the bad guy. I didn't have to explain why the marriage was over. They handed me my out, gift-wrapped in betrayal. So I got to work, quietly, methodically. I started gathering paperwork, joint accounts, property files, anything that might be used in the divorce. I even began making copies when Ethan was at the gym. I didn't let on that I knew. Let them have their little affair. Let them think they were pulling one over on me. Because while they were sneaking around in the dark, I was building the road out. And the best part? They had absolutely no idea. Looking back, it's almost funny how obvious it all was. The perfume that wasn't mine lingering in Ethan's car. The way Lily's voice tightened whenever she mentioned his name, like she was trying too hard to sound casual. And those clumsy glances they thought I didn't notice when we were all in the same room? Amateur. They thought they were being discreet. But I've known both of them far too long not to recognize when guilt walks into a room wearing perfume and cologne. But here's the thing. I didn't confront either of them. Not yet. I was too curious. I wanted to see how far they'd go, how tangled they'd let themselves get before the noose of their own choices started tightening. I played my role perfectly. Distracted, distant, too tired to notice. I even asked Ethan how Lily was doing, watched him squirm through his answer. It was like watching a child lie about stealing cookies, with crumbs all over his shirt. Deep down, I think I wanted them to underestimate me, to mistake my calm for cluelessness, because the truth was, I was savoring this. Not the betrayal, but the clarity. For once, I wasn't the one overthinking or bending myself in half to make something broken look whole. I was done holding it all together, and for the first time in years, I was starting to feel something close to freedom. Not loud, dramatic freedom, but quiet, steady, strategic. It's strange how betrayal can feel like a gift when you've already detached. I used to lie awake at night wondering if I was the problem, wondering why I felt so numb beside Ethan. But now, everything made sense. He wasn't trying. I wasn't trying. We were two people playing house in a structure built on habit. And Lily? Well, she was just the last straw in a story that should have ended years ago. A sad cliché twist, but one I could use. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't want revenge. I wanted control. I wanted dignity. I didn't want to scream in a kitchen or throw his clothes out a window like some movie scene. That's not who I am. I'm the woman who smiles in silence, who watches, who plans. They thought they had the upper hand. But while they were wrapped up in their little fantasy, I was writing the final chapter, my way. I had no tears left for Ethan, no anger for Lily. What I had was purpose, focus. Every file I copied, every document I organized, it was a brick in the foundation of my exit, and I didn't need anyone's permission to walk away. The funny thing is, they still saw me as the same old Rebecca, sweet, passive, forgiving. But what they didn't realize was that the version of me they betrayed doesn't exist anymore. When Lily called and asked if she could come over to talk, I almost laughed. Her voice had that trembling politeness, like someone trying to sound innocent with a mouthful of guilt. I already knew what was coming. I could practically hear her rehearsing the lines in her head, but I played along, keeping my voice soft, maybe even a little broken. Of course, I said. Come by. Let her think she was stepping into a safe space. Let her think I didn't already know everything. I made tea before she arrived. Not because she deserved comfort, but because I wanted to set the stage. Calm, familiar, ordinary. Let her confess in the same living room where we used to watch cartoons together as kids. When she finally walked in, her eyes were red-rimmed, her hands shaking just enough to be noticeable. I offered her the tea. She took it, barely sipping. Then, after one deep breath and a long pause, she dropped it like a badly timed punchline. It just happened. We didn't plan it. But now I'm pregnant. I looked at her, really looked at her, and instead of fury or pain or even disgust, I felt amusement. A sharp, quiet kind. The way you feel when someone thinks they've shocked you, but really they've only proven your point. I let the silence sit for a second, then raised an eyebrow and asked, "Pregnant? With Ethan's baby?" And then I laughed. Not cruelly, not hysterically. Just a low, disbelieving laugh that made her freeze, because that's when she realized something was off. I leaned back, still smiling, and gave her a moment to catch up, watching her face shift from nervous to confused to terrified. "Sweetheart," I said, gently, like a mother correcting a child, "that's impossible." Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but no words came. "Ethan's infertile. Has been for years. We tried everything. Tests, treatments, you name it." Her face went completely still. No tears, no denial. Just pale, stiff silence. That's when it really sank in for her. It was almost poetic, the way her confidence crumbled in real time. She had walked in expecting tears, maybe a slap, definitely drama. Instead, I gave her facts. Cold, quiet, deadly. I stood slowly, not to intimidate, but to let her feel just how done I was. "You're not just a liar," I told her. "You're a fool." I watched those words land like bricks in her lap. She didn't even flinch, just sat there, small and stunned, like a child caught stealing from a candy jar. And in that moment, I wasn't angry. I was free. Everything I needed was already falling into place, and now she had handed me the cherry on top. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw her out. I simply walked into the kitchen, poured myself another cup of tea, and let her sit in the silence she created. Let her think about what it meant, what kind of mess she was really in. Because for the first time, Lily wasn't the center of attention. She was the cautionary tale. She mumbled something, maybe an apology, maybe an excuse, but I didn't care enough to ask her to repeat it. I wasn't there to play therapist. I'd spent years sacrificing my peace for the sake of family harmony, of keeping things nice, of pretending we were close. But in that moment, I realized I owed her nothing. Not comfort, not forgiveness, not even my attention. She had crossed a line and set fire to the bridge behind her. All I did was stand on the other side and watch it burn. She left without finishing her tea. Didn't even look me in the eye on the way out. And when the door clicked shut behind her, I didn't cry. I didn't crumble. I exhaled. A long, deep, soul-cleansing breath. Because what she thought would break me had actually clarified everything. There was no turning back now. She'd handed me a story so absurd, so self-damning, that I wouldn't even need to embellish it. And as I stood there in my quiet living room, I knew exactly what I had to do next. Not to lash out, not to beg or plead or seek closure, but to plan, to move my pieces on the board carefully, quietly. Let them keep thinking they're winning. Let them bask in the lie. Because the truth was about to be a spotlight, and I was about to aim it right at them. I didn't confront Ethan right away. What would be the point? He'd deny it, fumble through lies, maybe cry if he was feeling dramatic. No, I needed him comfortable, relaxed enough to get sloppy. So I played the part. The devastated wife. Quiet. Distant. Teary-eyed when appropriate. I even let my mascara run once, just to sell the performance. And of course he ate it up. He thought I didn't know a thing, that I was just grieving our drifting apart. Meanwhile, I was gathering, screenshotting texts, photographing receipts, saving dates, times, and hotel names. I created a folder on a spare USB labeled Vacation Ideas and stuffed it with everything they didn't want me to know. Let them kiss in parking lots and exchange whispers. I was documenting their downfall with timestamps. The more I found, the more laser-focused I became. Not out of spite, but out of strategy. I wasn't just leaving. I was building a case they'd never see coming. And then I had the idea. A family dinner, both sides, parents, siblings, aunts who gossip like it's an Olympic sport. The kind of audience that remembers details and repeats them for years. I told Ethan I had something important to share and that I wanted everyone there. He looked surprised, maybe even hopeful. "Are you pregnant?" he asked, like that could fix things. I gave him a soft smile and said, "Not exactly." Let him sit in that mystery for a while. I made sure Lily was invited too, of course. I even called her myself, told her I forgave her, said I wanted to support their future if that's where things were headed. She cried. Again. Always with the tears, that one. But this time, they weren't guilt. They were relief. She thought the storm had passed, that I had swallowed her betrayal with grace. And Ethan? He played along, kept acting confused, even touched, like I was being so mature. It was almost insulting how little they knew me. Over the next week, I played hostess and housewife like nothing was wrong. I set the table for our future goodbye, folding napkins with practiced precision. I even baked Ethan's favorite dessert, let him kiss me on the cheek, listened to his empty stories over dinner like it was any other week. All while he smiled at my sister's texts under the table. All while she sent me baby name ideas like we were still best friends. It was the most delicious kind of quiet before the storm. The night before the dinner, I printed everything. Every flirty message, every receipt, and most importantly, Ethan's medical report. The one that spelled it out in bold: infertility, permanent, confirmed, signed and dated by a specialist. I slipped it into a white envelope and tucked it into my purse. Then I looked at myself in the mirror and smiled, not out of vanity, but preparation. I wasn't going to make a scene. I was going to make history. And they were walking straight into it. The dinner was set for Saturday evening. Long table, good wine, my mother's favorite flowers at the center. Everyone showed up on time, dressed like it was a celebration. And in a way, it was. Just not for the reasons they thought. Ethan wore his best shirt, the one I bought him last year. Lily showed up glowing, hand resting on her barely there bump like it was the crown jewel. They sat across from me, whispering, smiling, stealing glances. It was adorable, really, watching two people so smug in their secrets. I made small talk, passed dishes, laughed at half-funny stories. Let the tension simmer slowly, like a perfect stew. People kept asking what the big announcement was. I just smiled and said, "We'll get to that." I wanted the room warm, full, noisy. I wanted the crash to be heard by every ear at that table. And when I finally stood with my glass raised, there was a hush so complete you could hear the silverware pause mid-air. I had their full attention. Every set of eyes, waiting. I looked at Lily first. "Congratulations," I said sweetly, "on your pregnancy." A few people clapped. She blushed. Ethan smiled like a fool. And then I added, "I just hope you figure out who the father is. Soon." That line landed like thunder. A beat of silence, confused glances, and just as Lily's face began to twist into panic, I reached into my purse, slowly, calmly. I pulled out the envelope. Because, surprise, Ethan's infertile. Then I placed the report on the table like it was dessert, and watched the entire room turn to ash. The silence after I laid down that envelope was exquisite. You could feel it settle into every corner of the room, pressing against the walls like a storm cloud. Ethan blinked at the paper like it was written in another language. Lily? She just froze, hand still on her belly, mouth slightly open. No sound, no breath, just the kind of stillness that only comes when someone's entire world tilts sideways. And the rest of the table? Utterly stunned. I let the silence stretch, letting every second wrap tighter around their necks. Then came the questions. Quiet at first? What's she talking about? then louder. Is this real? My mother leaned forward, squinting at the report, while my father's jaw clenched like he already knew. Ethan finally reached for the envelope, his hand shaking so badly he dropped it on the table. What is this, Rebecca? His voice cracked. I tilted my head. It's your fertility report. Remember? After we spent 2 years trying to get pregnant and you finally saw a specialist? I could have sworn I saw Lily's stomach physically drop. She started to stammer. No, that can't be, he said. Ethan said. But her voice didn't stand a chance against the truth. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. Everything I had to say was already documented, signed, and dated. Ethan looked at her like he was trying to do math in real time. His face moved through stages: confusion, disbelief, and then the sharp, horrifying realization that she hadn't just betrayed me, she had betrayed him too. That baby wasn't his, and now the whole room knew it. I stayed standing, glass still in hand, calm as ever. Oh, and Ethan, I added, turning toward him with a soft smile. I'll be filing for divorce in the morning. A few gasps. My aunt dropped her fork. Feel free to stay with my sister, I continued, sweet as sugar. You two seem like a perfect mess. That's when Lily finally found her voice, but all she managed was a shaky, Rebecca. I didn't know. I swear he told me. I held up a hand. Lily, please. You lied, repeatedly. Let's not add bad actress to the list. Ethan tried to recover, tried to stand, but he was off balance. His ego, his pride, all of it crumbling. You blindsided me, he hissed, low and venomous. This is humiliating. I nodded. Good. Now you know how I felt 5 years ago when you stopped seeing me as your wife and started looking right through me. His jaw tightened. I knew that look, the one he used when he knew he was wrong but couldn't stomach the loss of control. Well, control had officially left the building and taken his dignity with it. Lily looked like she might faint. Her hands trembled in her lap, her eyes darting around the table, looking for a lifeline. But no one jumped in. No one saved her. Not this time. She had played with fire and walked into a room full of witnesses just as the house burned down. I let my words sink into the silence, set my glass down gently, and straightened my shoulders. I didn't need to scream. The damage was already done, and it was beautiful. I gathered my things slowly. No rush, no drama, just poise. I kissed my mother on the cheek, thanked my aunt for the casserole, and turned to the table like I was leaving a book club early. Enjoy the rest of your evening, I said, with a small wave. No one moved, no one spoke. Even the air felt suspended, like the room hadn't decided how to breathe without me in it. And as I walked out, heels tapping calmly against the floor, I felt light, like I had finally shrugged off a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying. Behind me, I could hear murmurs beginning, questions flying. Someone asked Lily if the baby was even real. Someone else whispered something about paternity tests. Ethan's voice rose, shaky, defensive. I didn't turn back. Let them deal with the wreckage. It was their masterpiece, after all. I had simply built the frame to display it in front of the right audience. Funny, isn't it? All those lies, months of sneaking, and in the end, it took me less than 5 minutes to unravel everything. Outside, the night was quiet. No applause, no fireworks. Just me, alone, steady, whole. I got into my car, slipped the divorce papers out of the glove compartment, and smiled. Not a grin of revenge, but a quiet, satisfied curve of the lips. I wasn't just leaving the marriage. I was leaving the version of myself that tolerated less than she deserved. And the best part? They still didn't understand what had really happened. But they would. Finalizing the divorce felt like closing a book I should have put down years ago. No hesitation, no second guessing. Just clean signatures, quiet nods, and the satisfying weight of closure. I walked out of that lawyer's office with more than a legal document. I walked out with peace. Real peace. The kind that wraps around your shoulders like a warm shawl on a cold morning. I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate. I just exhaled, deeply, finally. Financially, I walked away secure. I'd planned well, documented, saved, consulted the right people. Ethan tried to push back during negotiations, but his face still wore the bruises of that dinner. He didn't have the fight in him anymore. His pride had taken too many hits. And Lily? She stayed quiet throughout. I think the shame had started to settle in, spreading like mold through the cracks of her perfect little facade. It was only a matter of time before the whispers started turning into full conversations. Everywhere I went, there were murmurs. Friends who suddenly didn't invite Lily to brunch, family who kept their distance. People love a scandal, but they love a fool's downfall even more. The pregnancy she once flaunted became a source of scrutiny. Was there even a baby? Who was the father? How many other secrets was she keeping? No one said it to her face, of course, but I didn't need them to. The silence she now sat in was louder than any confrontation. Ethan didn't fare much better. At first, he tried to salvage his image, show up at mutual gatherings alone, pretend he was just going through something. But the cracks were visible. He looked thinner, angrier, like a man constantly trying to rewrite a story everyone had already read. I heard from a friend that he'd been showing up at bars alone, talking too much, drinking too fast. And when someone asked him how Lily was, he reportedly just laughed, bitter, hollow. Like he wasn't sure if the joke was on him or if he was the punchline. I never reached out, never followed up. I didn't need to. Their unraveling was none of my business anymore. It was just background noise to the new silence I was enjoying. A good silence. No lies, no tension, no pretending. I woke up each morning and stretched without wondering who was lying next to me. I made coffee and didn't feel that weight in my chest. I looked in the mirror and didn't see a woman shrinking to fit someone else's definition of enough. I was finally living on my own terms. And maybe the most beautiful part? I didn't need revenge to feel whole. I didn't need them ruined. I just needed them out of my way. Let the consequences come as they may. I wasn't watching anymore. I had better things to do. Like live. Like breathe. Like start again. Not as a wife, not as a sister trying to keep everyone happy, but as a woman who remembered her worth. A woman who realized that peace isn't something you ask for. It's something you choose, and then protect with everything you've got. These days, my mornings are quiet in the best way. I sit on the balcony, sunlight warming my face, a good book in one hand, coffee in the other. The kind of peace that doesn't need to prove itself. Sometimes I scroll through old photos, not out of sadness, but to remind myself how far I've come. That woman smiling next to Ethan, she was trying so hard to be loved by people who didn't know how to love themselves. I don't pity her, I thank her, because she's the reason I made it here. Lily's name comes up every now and then, usually followed by phrases like, "what a shame," or, "can you believe?" I don't engage, I just smile politely. Let them gossip, let them speculate. I'm not in that story anymore. And Ethan? I haven't seen him since the courthouse. I imagine he's still trying to piece together how everything fell apart so fast. But the truth is, it didn't fall. It unraveled, thread by thread, until there was nothing left to cling to but lies. I didn't just walk away with peace. I walked away with clarity, confidence, and yes, everything else they never thought I'd have the strength to claim. And now, as I sip my coffee, watching the world carry on, I think about how they tried to build a life on deception. It was always going to collapse. I just happened to light the match. They tried to build a life on lies. I walked away with the truth, and everything else.